Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto, where we come to transform ourselves and each other and the world. It is so good to be together. Folks who are here online, you are welcome to keep your video on throughout the service. Let's keep our audio off for most of the service, but you'll want to know where that unmute button is for when we get to the end and say our benediction together. Online attendees, you can see the order of service by following the link in the chat. If you are here at the UUCPA campus, you can get the electronic version through the QR code that's at the welcome table whenever you come in, or you can pick up a paper copy from an usher as you come in as well. I have a couple of announcements to call to your attention. One, just please note the things that are happening today. Again, if you have a paper copy, we try to keep it short and save trees, but you can follow the links to much more information about all those. So there's tea after the service with me for newcomers. If you're new, please do come to room 10 with me. Or, tonight, decorating the hall with the teenager group. So that should be fun. Cookies are promised at both of these events. Cookies. And a week from tonight, we are the hosts of the monthly Interfaith Peaceful Presence service. As a member of Multi-Faith Voices for Peace and Justice, we host it about once a year, and it goes around to all different congregations, always on the 11th of the month. So you can attend it when UUCPA is hosting by attending here in the Fireside Room or online. And now I believe the choir has an announcement. Sunday is my favorite time of year for so many reasons, but hearing Florence Haas's underture is definitely way up there. Please do give to what you can to folks through Undy Sunday, and again, all the details are followed from your order of service. And now, let us begin our service. If you have a chalice there with you, please light it along with us. These words are by Shari Woodbury. Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace. Light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. With our centering words each week, we draw on the many sources of our living tradition. You've probably figured out by now that that means from anywhere at all. Today's words are from the U.S.-American poet Ella Wheeler Wilcox. There is no language that love does not speak. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, let us allow ourselves to arrive here fully in this place and time we have set aside to be together. We now turn our thoughts to the important events of our lives, which we wish this community to share. If you're on Zoom, you can put them in the Zoom chat. People here in person, you can always fill out these cards as soon as you arrive to have your joy or concern shared aloud. And there is a third way that works right now and all through the week, which is to send them to joyconcern@uucpa.org. And I have a few that ways. Let's take some time of quiet prayer and meditation. So many joys and sorrows, and it's good to have a little time just to allow our hearts to expand, to hold them all, and to be aware as well that there's so many others that we do not hear, that we hold tenderly in our hearts. Blessed be. Please join in singing I Seek the Spirit of a Child, number 338, in the gray hymnal. If you're online, you can see the words in the order of service. 338. it's time of recommitment to our ideals in our service, because our ideals shine always from far ahead, and so the gap between the people we want to be and what we have done may pain us. As we enter this time of quiet, may wisdom speak to us, may courage strengthen us to face our failings, whether large or small. And may we know that we are held by a love that cannot be dimmed by disappointment. May we hold ourselves with that same gentleness. Now, in silence, we will contemplate ourselves with honesty and with the compassion for ourselves and others that will help us to make our lives anew. The words we will now say together have reminded generations of Unitarian Universalists of the community and tradition that support our spiritual growth. So please join me in saying the affirmation that's there in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve life and human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. Please join in singing May I Be Filled with Loving Kindness, number 1031 in your teal hymnal. If you're online, again, the words are in your order of service. 1031.
This is working, right? Okay. I'm Barbara Saxton, and very pleased that Amy asked me to come and share some words about a great friend of mine and also read a poem by that person. I first met Loretta Walker in 2009, a year before her full-length poetry book, Word Ghetto, was published. Of course, Loretta had been writing and publishing poetry from a very early age, but this was the first of 7 full-length works that she published. Loretta was born in East Texas and emigrated to the town of Odessa in West Texas with her mama and 5 siblings. Poetry was one of her major passions, the other being her profession as an instrumental music teacher at Reagan Elementary School in Odessa. She was one of the first members of her family to graduate from college, much less become an educator herself. Loretta was a beautiful, large, and larger-than-life Black woman. When she traveled to San Francisco 13 years ago to attend Diane Frank's Blue Light Press Summer Poetry Workshop, Diane asked me to pick her up at the airport, put her up one night in our home in Mountain View, and take her to Felton to work on the art for her book, and then drive her to San Francisco for the workshop. And I said, sure, gulp. When I first phoned Loretta, asking how I would know her outside the airport, she described herself as a big Black woman with a huge suitcase and a saxophone. I told her I would be the middle-aged honky in a red Subaru Outback. Knowing that she'd had a long and probably very tiring flight, I offered to take her back to our house to get settled and rest. She declined, asking, "How far is it to the ocean from here?" So we headed off to Half Moon Bay for lunch and a long walk on the beach. After the heat of West Texas, it was like watching an exotic bird take flight in the welcome, fresh, and cool seaside air. There are some friends that you need to explain yourself to. Not the case with Loretta and me. Despite being from really different backgrounds, we hit the ground running and never stopped, talking, sharing, reading drafts of our poetry, and having huge amounts of fun. Until she became too ill from breast cancer and punishing treatments, she came to San Francisco 6 or 7 times, and she always stayed with us. Between visits, we phoned, texted, and wrote letters. Remember those? All the time. We had much in common, but I remember one instance when we differed markedly. After Breonna Taylor was killed, after opening her front door to police, Loretta and I talked about it on the phone. While I ranted about the injustice in my usual white liberal way, Loretta said, "I can feel those bullets piercing my soul," and also that she was now afraid to open her apartment door. Loretta died on July 5th, 2022, at the age of 63. On a chilly day in late October, Diane Frank and I were honored to be asked by her Texas family to join them in fulfilling Loretta's last wishes, that her ashes be released in the Pacific Ocean near San Francisco. As I watched her biodegradable vessel bob in the waves and finally disappear, I thought of our first beach adventure and smiled through my tears. I wish you had known her, and more than that you were able to hear her read Lunchtime Proposal in her booming yet also soothing Texas drawl. I'll try to do it justice. This poem and others based on the cafeteria conversations that she had with many of her young students perfectly complements Amy's sermon about the power of childlike love that doesn't admit of any rules. Lunchtime Proposal for Madison N. Humility is limp, impotent as blanks in a musket when she shoots to her 7-year-old feet. Her sky-faded eyes are softer than candlelight, but there is no timidity in her Mars-colored cheeks. She abandons her lunch, flattens her hands on the table, and does not leave room for race or age, gender or station, when she asks, "Miss Walker, will you marry me?" I've eaten more laughter than tears after teaching 28 years. I take another bite of it, disguise what I am chewing. "No, I can't marry you. I am too old." 7 years have made her determination strong like the Golden Gate's crimson legs. "We can work this out and have a baby named Bob." How I wish we could work things out. War, famine, poverty, differences, hate, harsh words, and cruelty would fizzle like Alka-Seltzer. We cannot put these dark things in a glass, pour them in the Mississippi's muddy shoes, nor can I be her wife. She sees only the simplicity of life, of love. I will take her light, lock it in the cabinet next to my desk, and leave the key dangling for the world to grab hold.
Is a beautiful one. Thank you so much. Love is described so many ways, defined so many ways in our culture, in our pop culture. Love is blind. Love is an untamed force. Love is difficult. Love will break your heart. Love hurts. Love stinks. Love is complicated. Love is a battlefield. Hard to argue with any of those. And then here's this child who makes love so simple. We can work it out and have a baby named Bob. I want to say, Barbara said that that is compatible with my message. That poem inspired this message. I felt like this child, through Loretta Walker's marvelous poem, was reminding me of something that I'd heard before, helping me to hear it in a way that maybe made it more accessible. You know, for a child to love across boundaries and borders is so charming because she doesn't know any of the rules yet. But people have been doing that, adults, despite of all rules and roles and laws and taboos, filling up our lives and our literature, well, for forever. Someone will fall in love with someone of the wrong clan, the wrong caste, the wrong country or color or religion or sex or age. And sometimes the full weight of human laws falls upon them. Their family disowns them, their country excludes them. But love doesn't pay any attention to all of that. It's very stubborn. Friendship has less hormonal power behind it, but it too is a love that leaps over borders, as Barbara and Loretta found, coming from such different places and put together by chance by one thing that they had in common, poetry, and making a friendship that lasted the rest of their lives. So a child, as I said, doesn't know about these roles yet, these rules. For an adult, loving despite knowing them is a triumph. And here comes Advent, which means, here comes the waiting time, the approaching, the preparation time in the Christian tradition, when one of the great teachers of humanity is coming. And he's coming to tell us love is actually very simple. All those things that I said, how it's complicated and a battlefield. Jesus, like other teachers, like our universalist forebears for hundreds of years and right up to now, says it's actually very simple. Not easy, but not complicated. The only thing you need to decide is this person a person? Am I looking at another human being? Okay. Because that's your neighbor, Jesus says. And the rule is love your neighbor as yourself. Very simple. He also said that you must become like a little child to enter the kingdom of heaven. Now, I'm not sure how Jesus thought about childhood, as I'll be talking about next week. People of other times and places have had very different ideas than we do in our complex understanding of childhood as having these complex psychological needs, different developmental stages than adulthood. So I don't think he meant childlike in a modern sense, but I'm all for anachronistically interpreting the Bible, so here we go. I'd like to interpret this passage as being the twin of love your neighbor as yourself. The way we love our neighbors as ourselves is we become more like children. The way we become more like children is we look at how children love. And we say, forget all these rules that I've learned. Forget, what does she say? Age, race, station. I don't need to know any of that. Here we are, people in the same place, on the same planet, and the rule is simple. Love one another. Now, it gets confusing because we use love to mean so many things, right? It's a word that comes up all the time. Love your haircut, right? She loves the Beatles. They love garlic bread. Okay, so that's all like aesthetic approval or enjoyment of something. But then even when it comes to people, we use the same word for the love that one has for a friend or a parent or a child or a sibling, a cousin, a lover. And these are not all the same thing. We use love to mean, I want to be with you. I enjoy your company. I want to make love with you. I understand and feel understood by you. And so many other shades of meaning. And for these, judgment is needed. You know, the childlike naivete is not so good when it comes to these sophisticated, complex choices we make about whom do we want to have as a friend, as a partner. I mean judgment in the sense of discernment, discrimination between two things. For the love Jesus is talking about, those are irrelevant. It's true that a love that doesn't admit of boundaries or borders or rules is naive and not very wisely applied to romance and friendship, family relationships even, because in those, healthy boundaries are actually essential to creating good relationships. But I think that's the point of this teaching. From Jesus, from many other teachers in religious and secular settings, right down to Madison in the lunchroom. This isn't love like liking but bigger and stronger. It isn't necessarily companionship, friendship, choosing someone and moving through life with them. I don't know, maybe that's what Madison was talking about. But in order for us as adults to really be more like her, we need to go out the other side of adulthood, the kind of discrimination we bring to our relationships. I think it's a parallel to what Picasso is said to have said about how one can spend decades learning again how to paint like a child. I don't think he meant, I just want to paint like I painted when I was 4. Okay, we're talking about Picasso and he was a genius, so maybe like I was 2. I think he's saying for an adult to paint like that requires all that knowledge and all that discrimination and knowing how to set it aside when it doesn't belong. And I think that's what we're talking about this kind of love. It's hard because, you know, when we apply our discrimination, when we think about who we like, whom we trust, we realize there's a lot of people we don't like, we don't trust, we fear them, we might even hate them. And we're pretty sure that some people out there dislike and fear and distrust and maybe even hate us. And those are the acid test, of course. Am I supposed to love them? Anti-Semitism is on the rise. It's really scary. Are we supposed to love people who would like to destroy us? Racism runs like a poison through this country's veins. Are people who are its targets supposed to love people who are racist? Well, when I ask these acid test questions, I think of this meditation that we just sang. Something that we can want for everyone is, may they be peaceful and well and whole, right? I mean, I'm thinking that I can do this even about people who would destroy me if they could, because if this wish came true, if they really were well and whole and at peace, then they would no longer want this. You just can't. You can't hate somebody and do violence to somebody and be at peace and well and whole yourself. And then for this meditation, all we need to know about somebody is not whether we like them or have anything in common with them or whether they like or respect us. We just need to know that they're human. Despite the words that we fling about people who wish each other harm, you know, that they're monsters, that they're machines. They're human. And then we apply this meditation. Thinking about, we could add another verse. We sang it with I and you and we, and I'm thinking, what if I sang it with the word all? May I be filled with loving kindness. No, may all be filled with loving kindness. May all be well. May all be peaceful and at ease. May all be whole. Is that not something we can all wish for? With sincerity? If it came true, this meditation, this wish, there would be no cruelty, no war, no environmental destruction, no greed. Right? They would all disappear like Alka-Seltzer. None of it's easy, as I said, but it's simple. That beautiful phrase in Loretta Walker's poem. Could we see only the simplicity of love? Could we practice that? Let's practice it right now. Each ourselves, in the privacy of our own hearts, think about somebody who's really hard for you to love. You don't like them, you don't trust them, you know all of it. You're afraid of them. When you know who that person is, see if you can say these words in your heart with their name in there. May this person be well. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be whole. Let's try it. This little girl in the cafeteria and her accomplices, Miss Walker and Jesus and so many others. They've given us that love, the light of that love. I'm thinking if we could practice this, when we encounter somebody who's hard to love, hard to like, if we could practice this meditation, would we not be grabbing that key, opening that cabinet and having that light of love pour out so that we could live in it? If we did that, if we lived in that simplicity of love, what kind of world might we make? It's an apt time for our offering because this is what we do here. We try to create a small piece of the world, a small place, community, time to practice this, to practice offering love to one another unconditionally, so that we can practice offering it to the world outside. Help each other to do so much to make our lives into all that we dream of, to make our world into the one we dream about. If we are moved by gratitude for the community that we create here, we may choose to support it with whatever financial resources we can here in our weekly spiritual practice of generosity. The order of service gives a QR code and link and also information on giving, using text to give via Give Lively. Mike will bring up the box for those who prefer to give with a check or cash. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Thank you for your generosity. Please rise in body or spirit, and we will join in singing Meditation on Breathing, number 1009 in the Teal hymnal. If you're online, the words are in your order of service. Please carry on singing whatever piece of it you like. We'll sing it several times so we can hear our voices intertwine. 1009.
I'll
after our benediction to chat in the main room there, online, or here. Our coffee is being served in the fireside room, the building right here with the blue doors. So if you do drink indoors there, remember to keep some distance and put your mask on. But I think it's warmed up enough that we can enjoy our coffee outside. We all begin with greeting time, a chance to speak to someone you haven't met before or haven't seen in a while. So old timers, please greet a newcomer and see if you find out enough about what brought them here to introduce them to someone else they'd like to meet. Now, if you're online, please unmute yourself, turn on your video, and touch hands virtually like this while we say our benediction together. And those of us in the main hall, if you wish to just show you're together but not hold hands, do like this. If not, let's take hands as we say our words. Go out into the
world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast to what is good. Turn no one evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Rejoice in beauty. Speak love. Word and deed. Honor all.
Amen.